Hello, this is Amber Hammond, and this is my screencast for social studies. We will be exploring the website Smithsonian, as in the Smithsonian Institute. So if you go to the website and click on Overview, it kind of gives you a little bit of the history of the Smithsonian. So there's 19 world-class museums and 9 research centers and a zoo. But notice that all the Smithsonians are in the DC metro area or in New York City. So since it's so far away, our students are probably never going to have a chance to take a field trip there, but we can do some stuff digitally that would really enhance our student learning. So that's what I'll be showing you today. I'm going to be showing you 2 different activities that can be done through this website. The first one's located on the Educators tab here, and the second one's located on the Kids tab. Both of these activities will be based on American history, since this website is about Americans and their history. So I chose to focus on the Civil War era, which is primarily a 5th grade standard. Therefore, the standards I'm going to be focusing on will be the following. So I just put together this. So looking at the standards for extension activities, I pulled up research skills for history. So they would be constructing timelines. They would be describing the difference between primary and secondary sources. They would be locating information using primary and secondary sources. And then coming over here, looking at the strands for American history, they'll be describing the following individuals' roles in the reform movement before the Civil War, and then also they'll be describing the factors leading to the Civil War. I also pulled up some language arts standards because in my activities, the students will be using technology to produce and publish writing, and also they'll be writing informative or explanatory text to examine a topic and convey ideas and information clearly. So those are both 5th grade language arts standards. So those will be the standards that I'll be using for this particular screencast. So going back to Smithsonian, as I said, I was going to be doing 2 activities. So if you click on the educator side, it will take you to the Smithsonian Learning Lab. Click on that, and then it says to discover, create, or share. Today we're going to be creating. You can create your own particular collection, but I'm just going to be searching a collection today. So if you ever wanted to create your own, these are the videos that you would watch on how to do that. So finding a collection, we want to talk about the Civil War. And it pulls up 42 Learning Lab collections. So I looked through these. And remember, I want to talk about what led up to the Civil War. So I found this one. It says the 1850s and causes of the Civil War. So here is a whole bunch of pictures and primary sources about all kinds of different things about the civil unrest during that period of time. So you could actually print these out and use these in your classroom, or if students have access to technology, then they could pull these up on their own. So students could be in groups. They could look through the site, read about each picture. So just clicking on this one shows me one. And it can give me all kinds of information there about this particular picture. So if you click on the, I pulled too far out. So click on this, and if you click on the read more here, it actually pulls up a whole bunch of ideas for activities using these sources. Okay, so one idea would be to have a sorting activity. So the students could have all the pictures and they could sort them into which causes are long-term and which are short, which represent economic, social, or political differences between the North-South. Can they be put in chronological order? So one idea that I had was that the classroom could be set up in a giant timeline and students could each have a picture either on a tablet or printed out and find their place on the timeline. I also thought we could use these artifacts as a starting point for a discussion about what events took place before the Civil War to cause the civil unrest. Here where it says notes to other users, it also says students could choose 4 or 5 resources that they would use to create their own collection, illustrating one cause that led to the Civil War. So this would require them to do additional research, and then they would have to write information about each object in their collection, which would be a really fantastic extension activity. So that just gives you a whole bunch of ideas of what to do with just these set of pictures. I also thought the students could try and figure out what the object was and when it could be used, and then take that object and create a poster describing it, and then they could do a gallery walk about the artifacts. So that could also be another way to use these particular pictures. So that's on the educator side. Again, there's a ton of videos and resources to use, and I think it's great that they're able to use primary sources, which oftentimes we just don't have access to in the classroom. But this one's a little more fun. This is the second activity, and this one is on the kids side, so click on kids. And it's a more interactive way to use the technology. So you click on the kids, you pull down to American History Kids, then you look at the top and click on to do at home here. And then there's a bunch of different activities and websites. But since we're working on the Civil War, I'm going to move down here and say, Who Am I? A History Mystery, which is a mystery character from the Civil War. So then we'll launch that. Then students will click on one of these mystery pictures, and they'll use artifacts or evidence to prove that they are selecting the right character. So let's do one together. I'm just going to click on this one. So we obviously know it's got to be some sort of a soldier because he's in soldier uniform. And it says, I was born in Morristown, New York in 1850. Which two objects belong to me? Drag them to the evidence folder. Well, we know he was born in New York, so he would have been a Union soldier. And we know he was born in 1850, and the war was between 1861 and 1865, so he would have been young. I mean, he would not have been 18 or an adult yet. So since we know he's a Union soldier and this is a Union cap, I'm going to put this in my evidence pile. So yes, I was in the Union infantry unit, so we were correct there. And there's some information there. It says this is a snare drum. It was used as both a musical instrument and a signaling device. Okay, well, he was young, so I bet he could have been a drummer. So let's try that as the evidence. You're right. I was a musician in the Union Army. Okay, so we were right both times. It gives us a little bit more information. It says, I was too young to go along. After a few months later, I heard that the Vermont 3rd was looking for one more musician. I got to Washington as soon as I could. So who am I? And I'm going to say he's a drummer boy. You are correct. So then this gives us a whole bunch of information that we can now print out. So one of the ideas that I had is we could do an extension to this activity and have the students work together in groups to create a PowerPoint presentation about their character, because it gives us a lot of information along the way. So since there are 6 characters, the groups would be in 4 to 5, and then they could create a PowerPoint where they wrote out the information about the character, or they could even write and find similarities to their characters and themselves, and then they can use the artifacts as evidence. Students could make connections about their character, such as, well, I play an instrument too, or I'd be about the same age as the drummer boy, or it could be a great springboard into the first activity. So once they know a little bit about these different soldiers, then we could go back in and look at the civil unrest that caused the Civil War. So either way, it'd be kind of a fun thing. And again, you could do a PowerPoint presentation or a poster to further illustrate their writing. And then it would be a really interactive way to teach the same information. So the last thing that I haven't talked about is the technology integration matrix. So this kind of shows you the different ways to use technology in your classroom. So the technology infusion matrix that I would be using for my 2 activities would be collaborative and constructive, and adaptation for the first activity, and then infusion for the second activity. And the difference is in the first one, there's not really a lot of student choice. The teacher's doing the choosing of the website. And in the second one, the choice of tools would be more collaborative, and the students would be doing that together, and they'd be able to pick whatever type of technology they wanted to use to present their information. So that's it. That is my Smithsonian website screencast. I hope you enjoyed it and got some information out of it. And let me know in the comments below what you thought.